dark. Why is it dark? Because the Bible closes with the last books, Chronicles, Kings, Ezra, Nehemiah, and so on, in the 400s. Now, the Maccabee books are in the Christian Bible, but not in the Jewish Bible, which is an anomaly. Why aren't the Maccabee books, I told you a little bit last time, in the Jewish Bible? Huh?
Civil War?
Well, the people who compiled the Bible as we now have it were whom?
Christians.
No. No. What about the Jewish Bible? The Pharisees. Bush lied. People died. Really? Is that the whole reason for the war in Iraq? I hope not. I thought Saddam was a pretty nasty fellow, as I recall, but anyway. The Pharisees were the party. When did they compile the Old Testament as we know it? Well, they didn't compile the Old Testament as we know it until after the war against Rome, because they were afraid the books were going to be scattered and so on and so forth, or lost, and etc. And they had some grudges to settle with different party strife, who would get in and who would get out. So the Bible, as we know it on the Jewish side, not on the Christian side, we'll get to in a minute, was not compiled until 100 AD or so. When was the war against Rome? These are dates you should be, just burned into your memory. Because you can't do, you say, well, I'm doing modern. Yeah, you're doing modern, but how did the Jews get to the situation they're in?
Don't they say they made the Septuagint like 200 though?
Wait. Answer the first question. Answer the first question I asked. When was the war against Rome? We'll get to the Septuagint. I haven't gotten the Septuagint yet.
66 to 70.
Yeah, you got it. 66 to 70, right? So somewhere after that, around 100, we don't have it really clear. But when was the second war against Rome? 132 to 136. And that really stamped out everything, right? We covered that last time. Okay, so the Jewish collection we know as I don't know what you want to call it. The Jews call it the Tanakh. How can one explain that to someone who doesn't know Hebrew? I don't know. I mean, who knows what Tanakh means? Go ahead.
Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim.
That's right. So what is it then? It's an acronym. I got that wrong anyway. It should be probably an I. Okay. So what do they mean, those three things?
Torah means teaching.
Yeah, I guess so. It's kind of teaching. It's the law. It's the first 5 books of Moses and so on. So what's Nevi'im? You obviously know these things from your education. The prophets. And Ketuvim, writings. And they go in descending order of holiness. The rabbis talk about, does a certain book impede your holiness of your hands if you touch it or so on. You have to be in a state of ritual cleanliness when you look at these things. So on and so forth. So the Torah is the most holy. Prophets are second most holy. Ketuvim, the rabbis say, well, they don't disturb your holiness at all. They're kind of neutral. What would they throw in under Ketuvim? Well, things like Ecclesiastes, wisdom, Proverbs, the writings. It's weird the way they do it, because for them, where do you put Joshua? Well, he goes into prophets, even though he's not, or Samuel goes into prophets. Where do you put Psalms? It probably goes in writings, you see. In any case, the big problem with those things, and this gentleman here is talking about the Septuagint, is Daniel. I mentioned him last time. Where do you put Daniel? The Jews put Daniel under what? writings, as I told you last time. And the Christians put Daniel under prophets. Because Daniel is a new kind of thing. It's what we call in the field and language apocalyptic. It isn't exactly prophecy, because it doesn't really have a symbolic language about weird imagery and vivid revelationary sort of presentation, like the apocalypse of the New Testament, which basically tries to imitate or continue its style. That's where you get the revelation of the New Testament book, because it's supposed to be, you know, another, it's called the apocalypse. You know. So it's a new style that we call, I don't know what they called it then, if they called it apocalypse then, but it's a new style. And the problem is the rabbis didn't like the book, because it was books like that that they blamed the war against Rome on, and they were against the war against Rome. The Pharisees did not participate in the war against Rome. Now you say, well, the Pharisees were smart. Yeah, well, maybe in retrospect they were smart. But at the time, the war was a popular war. And how do we know it? Just read Josephus. He documents it. He shows you it was supported by the large number of the population. So this idea that the Pharisees are the popular party is something that the Pharisee party has put upon the history, because they're the ones who survived. And the people who survived, the victors, if you like, they weren't the victors, but they survived, that's a victory in itself, write the history. Now for them, the paradigmatic moment is when the famous rabbi, you should know this, Yochanan ben Zakkai, has himself smuggled out of Jerusalem in a coffin. Now that really is symbolic. It's the only way you could get out as a dead man, in fact. He has himself smuggled out of Jerusalem in a coffin, because he gets his nephews, in the rabbinic literature, it's going to be in my new book that I'm writing, that's coming out in October, the New Testament Code, because he gets the Roman, according to the Talmudic sources, I don't know how reliable they are, he gets the Roman commander Vespasian, or his son Titus, according to the Talmud it's Vespasian, but we know that Vespasian had already gone back to Rome at this time, so it has to be his son Titus who's in command of the Roman troops besieging Jerusalem at that